as we seek guidance to serve all in our community. Father God, you are the creator of love, peace, hope, and joy, and the conqueror of death. Scripture says, in the hearts, humans plans their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. I ask that you guide our path and give us firm footing to each step along the way. I ask that you continue to bless our country, and I pray for our leaders and our President Donald J. Trump. I pray for our city, our nation, and our world that has been redeemed by your sacrifice for our sins. We are a nation in need of revival. Your word says in Romans, and we know that in all things God works for the good for those who love him and who have been called according to his purposes. Let us serve your purposes and not our own. Be with those who have suffered the loss of loved ones, who are dealing with tragedy or afflictions. Be with our public safety and our road crews who are at this hour are working to make our streets safe for travel. I ask in all these things in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome. Go ahead and call the February 18th meeting to order. We'll do a roll call vote.
Allers.
Present.
Appleton.
Here.
Job. Lester.
Here.
Michael.
Here.
Mealy.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Spencer.
Here.
Spicer.
Present.
Young. Present. We have a quorum.
Job is online.
I'm here.
Thank you. Got 'em all. Yep.
Okay, thanks. All right, next item is adoption of the agenda. So, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Spencer.
Yeah, I'd like to make a change to the agenda on Bill 2024-80. I'd like to make a motion to move that back to the Administration Committee to be placed on the agenda for their March 5th meeting with the expectation for action to be taken at that time. I know this bill has created some issues within the community, and I'd just like to say that over 66% of the voters in this community voted for President Trump on the agenda and the platform that was openly very transparent of saying that he was going to end woke and DEI practices in the federal government. So, my view, the people have already spoken on this issue, and although I'm sympathetic to those that don't agree with this proposed ordinance, I just have two words, and I say it with all sincerity when I say it. You all lost. You voted for Harrison Walls, you lost. So I applaud Governor Kehoe for making this change as well in state government, for ending the DEI programs in state government. So I just ask that we pass this to the Administration Committee.
Is there a second to, all right, we've got a motion and a second to amend the agenda. Any other comments?
Is there discussion period of this, Mayor?
Well, we're on right now, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Light.
Thank you, sir.
Your discussion is on the motion to amend the agenda, correct?
And the comments as it relates to that motion. All of that was interesting commentary because none of it, virtually none of it, 95% of it has absolutely nothing to do with what we do here at City Council. You want to move your motion or your resolution to the admin committee, fine. The rest of that commentary should not be in this room. That's politics. This is a non-political party or group of people. It's irrelevant what we do here. 98% of decisions that we make or consider have virtually anything to do with politics. Highly inappropriate, in my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Young.
Yes, I would just like to say that I've received comments opposing this view from people who may have voted from or from. However, as been mentioned, there's no room for politics in this room. We're here to make sure that potholes, public safety, and that housing is brought to this city to further expand. When it comes to that, you don't need a political party to do that. And I would like for the focus of this council to stay right there. So those are my comments.
All right, we're discussing the amendment to the agenda. Councilman Lester, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I was just going to echo what's been said, that we are here to address issues and problems of the cities. I don't see that this has any relationship to any issues or problems we have. We just had a $140,000 study done of efficiency and on the city operations, and nothing about any of this is in that report. I think this is just being raised to stir things up. That's my comment.
All right, what's on the table is an amendment to the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Comments. Councilman Schwartz.
I just want to say, in light of what Councilman Lytle said, as the only guy on a nonpartisan commission who started DEI in the parks, I think that's a very interesting statement. It's funny because we want to come into a meeting where we're live and this is a touchy subject, but you're the only guy on the council that implemented this policy as far as I know, as the president of the Parks Commission. And that policy has went away under the current president. So I understand the differences you and Councilman Spencer have, and that's fine. That's part of life. But it's really frustrating when you implement a policy in a nonpartisan position and you come into this council and say, this doesn't belong here. Well, if it didn't belong here, it sure the hell didn't belong there. So I take quite exception with that. And I think we should probably have a little bit longer discussion when we actually get to the bill. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, the action is to amend the agenda to take that item off and send it back to the committee. Any other comments on the amendment?
Point of inquiry, just so I couldn't hear who seconded that, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Spicer. All right, seeing no other comments, seeing no other amendments, you have a proposal to amend the agenda in front of you. Roll call vote.
Allers.
Aye.
Hazelton.
No.
Job. Lester.
Sorry,
Lester.
No,
Michael.
No.
Mealy.
No.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer. Young.
No.
Job. No.
no.
6 noes, 4 ayes.
All right, you have the agenda as printed in front of you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hazelton.
I furthermore make my motion that Bill 2024-080 be moved to the informal calendar indefinitely.
Second.
So your motion is to amend the agenda to move that item?
Yes.
So only the bill sponsor can move things to the informal calendar.
You cannot move it as the bill sponsor can move it to the informal. You cannot move it to the informal. All right, any other action on the
I
agenda?
apologize. I amend my motion to table it indefinitely, Mr. Mayor.
Again, your motion is to amend the agenda to table that item.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second to
Yes,
that?
I second that.
Discussion on that amendment, Councilman Spencer.
I really find it somewhat amusing that we're discussing this and people have questioned the process. And I'm getting lectured on DEI and how this is interfacing with the community when my colleague from the 3rd Ward goes on an all-black cruise. There's nothing DEI that points to that. So
I rise to a question of privilege.
I just hope that people.
I rise to a question of
What's your
privilege.
point?
This is disrespectful behavior, talking about an individual's cruise in a personal life.
All right, I'm gonna,
Everything you do is probably all white.
excuse me. We're not gonna get into
How about
the,
that? I never seen you with a black person. They wouldn't hang with you. Now,
all right. We're gonna get it back under control. We're talking about the motion. I'm gonna ask the conversation to come back to the motion. The motion was a request to table this item indefinitely. Any other discussion on that motion? What you have before you is to amend the agenda, to take that agenda item off, table it indefinitely. No other comments? Do a roll call vote.
Osleton,
Aye.
Job,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Neely,
Aye.
Schwartz,
No.
Spencer,
No.
Spicer, Young,
aye.
Allers.
No.
6 ayes, 4 noes.
Since you have passed that amendment, you've got the amended agenda in front of you. Any other changes to the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All in favor of the agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so that item will come off. That is item 2024-080. It's introduced, item 11C. All right, we have some folks lined up for public comment. So we're going to start at the top of the list. Try to get the names right. Justin Meyer? You just introduce yourself. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
I know y'all just voted to table it, but I came here to talk about the item 2024-080. My name is Justin Myers, I just said. I'm a resident of Ward 5. I want to voice my opposition to the bill 2024-080, eliminating DEI. Many people tend to self-segregate with others who share similar backgrounds. As a result of this, there are many diverse groups within the city who have an array of different life experiences and perspectives. This array of life experiences and perspectives is a net positive for the city, as it brings a variety of differing talents and ideas for the betterment of society. This diversity allows different groups to look at problems in society from different angles, allowing for a comprehensive analysis and creative and more effective problem solving. This is similar to why capitalism is responsible for the richness of the country. In capitalism, multiple groups of companies compete with one another, which drives innovation and progress rather than stagnation. Diversity is similar in this regard. When you have multiple people from different backgrounds giving voice to issues, it drives progress forward in a similar fashion, not through competition, but collaboration. This is ultimately the purpose of DEI. The goal is not necessarily so you have a group of people who look different. The goal is so you have an array of ideas, opinions, and life experiences that comes along with that diversity. This is critical not just with companies who are trying to market their product to the public at large. It also matters in a city government who is responsible for the safety and general well-being of all people within the boundaries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Christine Boston? Again, if you just not your name when you come up, thank you for being here.
I do want to test the microphone because I noticed a couple of counselors were straining to hear. So can everyone hear me?
Well, we've got overhead, so it's
Okay, then I will use
a whole
my,
room microphone that we're in the process of changing that right now. That's what we have. So, yeah, if you can speak up, it helps
Okay.
the folks at home as
I
well.
will conjure up my middle school cheerleader
There you go. I like
voice.
it.
So good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Dr. Christine Boston. I'm a resident of Ward 5. My statement is part of what I sent earlier today via email, but I'm providing this oral statement in case you didn't have the opportunity to read my previously submitted testimony. My apologies for sending it so late. I want to express my concerns in opposition to the sale of 611 Jefferson Street to Prairie Farms, which I suspect plans to demolish the structure to expand their business. I understand decisions concerning the seized Busher properties often prioritize recovering the money spent on legal proceedings, demolitions of her derelict properties, and her unpaid taxes. I realize the seemingly urgent need to get those monies back, but I do not believe a short-sighted solution is the best one ever, particularly in this case. While I do not know all of the details pertaining to who submitted an RFP for 611 Jefferson Street, I recommend you reconsider the Prairie Farms proposal if other RFPs seeking to redevelop the property were submitted. The reason I say this is since I've moved here since 2016, Jefferson City has had a housing shortage. As I've said in previous meetings, when I asked real estate agents and colleagues about where to live and if I could rent, they all laughed at me. This shortage has been made worse since the tornado back in 2019. I have since learned that this is not a recent problem, but one that has spanned several decades, according to my colleagues who have lived here longer than I have. It continues to be a problem today, as demonstrated in the last month when a new colleague relocating from Florida had to extend his trip to Jefferson City by several days so he could secure housing for himself when he moves here next month. Failure to provide housing for residents has and will continue to negatively affect our city in various ways, particularly financially. This city cannot attract new businesses and residents if there's no appropriate housing for workers, and I'm seeing more and more people move elsewhere rather than reside in Jefferson City because there are little to no housing options. When they do this, they work here but spend most of their money in the communities they live in, which is money that could have been invested here had they been able to live here. Or I see people opting not to work here because they can't find appropriate housing within the city or nearby. That too is a problem as it robs local businesses of revenues and ultimately the city of tax dollars. My previously submitted testimony outlines these issues and more fully, but due to the time limit allowed to me tonight, I opted to summarize that content. While it may seem like a good idea to take what I suspect is a fairly large financial payout from Prairie Farms now, I believe that we are forfeiting long-term financial gains by not redeveloping 611 Jefferson Street into housing for current and future residents. Again, if there are other RFPs already submitted, I encourage you to consider them instead. Thank you.
Thanks. Vicki Schildmeyer? Hello. You just identify yourself. Welcome.
Vicki Schildmeyer, 1803 Tanner Bridge Road. I live in Ward 5. Thank you for the opportunity to come this evening and speak. I have 2 points with regard to proposed Bill 2024-080. The first is that I read the entire article in the newspaper about comments that City Administrator Crane made, that there really are no specific DEI programs and policies in the Jefferson City rules and regulations. And I believe, and I've talked to other people, that adding unnecessary prohibitions is pointless. Jefferson City residents expect better than that from their elected representatives, and that's all of you. Point 2, canceling DEIA could very easily lead to unintended consequences, such as the prohibition of handy wheels. This directly affects a friend of mine who relies upon a motorized electric wheelchair to go to the doctor and to go to her daughter's school events. And I urge you to realize that Most of us here know that handy wheels and other things that accommodate people who have difficulty moving about is an important aspect of making our community better. So I ask you to do that and to not approve that proposal when it comes before the council. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Matt Holland? Welcome.
Hello.
You just identify yourself again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. My name is Matt Holland, and I'm here as president of the Old Munichburg Association. And I'd like to talk about 611 Jefferson Street. Now, it appears that this property is perhaps getting handled a little bit differently than many of the other properties that were taken from Barbara Bisher, to, for lack of a better way to state it. They appeared to have went through a process where they were introduced as a bill and they went through the normal readings and there was an RFP. This appears to just be a contract for sale. So what we would like to ask is that the property be put back out for RFP if that is a possibility, as opposed to just directly selling it to an individual or group. We feel that there's a lot of potential for a redevelopment in that area. That property acts as a buffer to a very industrial area with Central Dairy. It's part of what you see as you drive into Jefferson City on Highway 50. And the Old Munichburg right now is working with the city to try and come up with a plan to restore Weirs Creek, and properties like this that are on the edge of that are only going to become more visible. And if there are no properties like this along the edge of Weirs Creek, then it's going to become more visible for the industrialness of Prairie Farms Central Dairy. So we think that there's the possibility for development, and we've had a couple of people reach out to us, one of which was able to make it tonight, and she will speak, who have an interest in looking at the property. And to what the previous speaker said about recovering your money, I believe that there's more to recovering your money than just a $50,000 payment, which I believe is what that is. There are the ongoing property taxes, there are whatever just having 4 additional residents inside of Jefferson City generates. It appears that we are very short on housing now, and people are living in other communities. And this appears to be a solid structure that could be revitalized, and we would just ask that you give the public another opportunity to look at it and make some bids or some proposals. And if Prairie Farms is the only group that proposes anything to it, then we would totally understand that that's the way that it had to be. But with without giving it another shot and knowing that we have people with interest, that's how we would like to see it addressed. I believe that is all I have to say. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for your service. Ginger Lukemeyer, welcome. You can just re-identify yourself. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, my name's Ginger Lukemeyer, and my family is newly business owner, I guess 2 years. We've been on 109 West Ashley, and I also serve on Old Munichburg. Well, I'm getting ready to volunteer for Old Munichburg and serve for them, and we are interested in the property on 611. We are newly invested in the neighborhood. As of, I think we've owned property for about 2 years. We have a family business. We're just small-time people that have lived in the community about 20 years. We would really love to see Jefferson City stay historic and stay beautiful. There's really nothing other than that. And I just wanted to say we really are a legitimate business that's interested in the property. I know that we were not in the business when the RFP first went out the first time, but we would love to have an opportunity to look at it. And we are interested in that area particularly, and there just aren't 100-year-old buildings that you can conjure up. And Jefferson City is lovely on its south side, and we need people invested in keeping it and restoring it and investing in Old Munichburg in the south side, and we're just a family that would like to do that. So we would be interested in any opportunity to see the property. I just wanted to say that there is a legitimate interest. It wasn't just conjured up. But we're really interested in finding more property in that area as we could and develop and restore it, whether it be housing, small business, to live there. We have a growing family with young sons that are willing to live in the neighborhood, and so we're looking for properties, and we just love the area and we love the historic feel of the neighborhood, and we want to see that continue and develop. And that's it. I'm a teacher here in town. I'm not a business owner. We're just learning how to do it. We're really just average people and just looking for the next thing for the next generation to do, and we're willing to invest in Jefferson City. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for your service on the association. All right, we've got at least one online, Susan Gibson. If you can unmute yourself.
Did that do it?
That did it.
My name is Susan Gibson, and I reside here in Jefferson City. I'm
Could you
speaking
speak
on the
up just a
proposal.
little bit, Susan?
Sure.
There you go.
I'm speaking on the proposal to eliminate diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs and policies at the city. The opposite of diversity is uniformity. I have to wonder who it is that everyone should conform to be like. The opposite of equity is unfairness. I have to wonder who deserves to be treated unfairly. The opposite of inclusion is obviously exclusion. So I wonder who is intended to be excluded. The council accommodates residents who are not able to stand for the purpose of speaking from the podium. This is an example of accessibility. I'm wondering if it is people living with disabilities that this proposal seeks to exclude. I feel that a lot of people need to know if this policy passes, if sloped curbs to accommodate people who use wheelchairs will no longer be included in sidewalk projects. Thank you for hearing me, and I look forward to getting some clarification.
Thank you very much for joining us. And I think we have Jackie Johnson, if you can unmute. Thank you. Welcome. I think you may still be on mute.
There we go. Now can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, my name is Jackie Johnson, and I live in Ward 1. I'm here today to also speak about Bill number 2024-080. When I first read that proposed ordinance, I was struck by the language it contains. There are a lot of adjectives in that bill. I thought of a few descriptive words myself, like inflammatory and divisive, but one word in the bill that really stuck out to me was pernicious. That's not a word you hear every day, but it made sense when I Googled part of the text and found that this bill was mostly just plagiarized from an executive order. So that brings me to my first point. I do not think that our city should be in the business of codifying executive orders. Remember that Congress can override executive orders through legislation, the judicial branch can review them for legality, and also remember that all presidents issue executive orders, so the next administration may have a different stance on this issue. Next, let's look at the proposed ordinance itself. I appreciate that it writes out the words diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. It is too easy to dismiss those words when you just say DEI or DEIA. I do also appreciate that the proposed ordinance says our city shall always pursue its commitment and obligations to be an equal opportunity employer. I mean, we have to because it's the law, but it's nice to see it in writing. The ordinance is so close to getting the point when it says that civil rights protections are a bedrock to supporting equality of opportunity for all Americans, but then it hangs a hard right. The purpose of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility is not to put a less qualified person in a position because of their difference. Instead, it ensures that a less qualified person isn't chosen over them. I think we can all agree that's the way hiring should be. The best person gets the job regardless of their race, color, national origin, sex, religion, age, disability, or marital or family status. The protected statuses of the Equal Opportunity Act of 1972, which amended and strengthened the protections against employment discrimination from the Civil Rights Act referred to in the bill. Section 1 of the proposed ordinance is especially problematic. It says the city would eliminate all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs or policies in all departments, boards, and commissions. That would mean getting rid of things like flexible schedules for families dealing with their own or family members' medical issues, prohibiting celebration of diverse holidays, eliminating mentorship programs and employee resource groups, just to name a few. And that sounds awful. If the alleged point of the bill is to ensure fair hiring, it won't matter if no one wants to work for our city. Finally, if you believe that our city hiring has been the victim of, quote, identity-based spoiled system, or if you think that is a threat, please take time to reflect on which one or more of our city employees, board members, or commission members was not hired based on merit. Was it a woman, someone of color, maybe an older employee, or someone else? Think about the message that you're sending when you specifically say we need to be protected from discrimination based on race or sex, and stop there. Does that mean you're okay with discrimination based on religion, national origin, or marital or family status? I join the rest of the people who have spoken. I am emphatically against this bill. I think it's unnecessary, it's unoriginal, and it would cause harm to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being online. And we've got one other, if you could identify yourself, it's phone number 353-1448. You still with us? If so, you're muted.
Hello, my name is Patsy Johnson. Can you hear me?
We can now, yeah, thank you.
Hi. I am calling in reference to the diversity, equity, and inclusion proposal that has been submitted. I'm totally against it. And we have all citizens in our community that are paying taxes in our community. I can't imagine our council people that are representing us, any of them, that would want to support a bill like that, that excludes any citizen from having equal treatment of any kind. So what I want to leave you with and what I want to question you about is, why would anyone want to keep anyone from having fairness, from having equality and a great opportunity to live a quality life in our community? I would like each council person to think about that before they vote on this and vote no against the diversity equity proposal that will just harm families and people in our community and keep a lot of people out of our community because of how the harm that it would cause for the individuals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all the folks we had signed up under public hearing, under public comment. There are some folks signed up as we get into the public hearings. So seeing no others, we're going to go ahead and go to item 6, public hearings. And we are on pending bill 2024-074.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 0.46 acres of land located at 1106 St. Mary's Boulevard from RA2 high-density residential to PUD planned unit development and approving a preliminary and final PUD plan.
Mr. Smith, did you want to make some comments before we open the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll briefly kind of go through the request again and just kind of a quick overview. So all three of these public hearings essentially are rezonings to PUD, and just to kind of recap, PUDs essentially are kind of like a unique zoning district that can allow some variation of the underlying zoning. So A couple of these are really just to allow some additional uses on property, and the last one we'll look at also includes a site plan for residential development. So we'll start with this property here at 1106 St. Mary's Boulevard. As you can see, it's currently zoned RA2. That's a multifamily zoning district. There is currently a structure on that property that was had a religious institution on that. The applicant, the Healing House and New Beginnings, is looking to essentially repurpose this, and I think we like to call this kind of adaptive reuse. Sometimes churches are a little hard to be able to repurpose, so the permitted use that would be allowed here is essentially for offices and classroom space to operate the offices and the treatment clinic there for their clients. Essentially, the site will remain the same. It does have some on-site parking, but there would be no alterations necessarily to the building or the ground. So there's not necessarily a associated site plan with this. It's just merely to allow that one additional use. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we can move along to the public hearing.
Any questions, Councilman Allers?
I remember at the planning zoning, the gentleman that's Mr. Hall, I believe, had a issue with, that sometimes people parking in his driveway. I think they settled that. You haven't heard of any more opposition from that?
No, we haven't received any other commentary, and I know we did discuss with him, and I think he spoke with the applicants after the meeting, kind of discuss a little bit more on what their plans for the parking would be.
I think that was his only reason, is because he was having, a hard time, and he also spoke that he wasn't recovering, so he was in favor of it. He just wanted to make sure the parking in that area, he could get in and out because he lived across the street, but we haven't heard any more from anyone that I've seen. I'm just a question to see if you've heard anybody else that.
No, nothing additional. Nothing additional, no.
Thank you.
I think we do have representatives here. If you'd like to hear from the applicants during the public hearing.
Yes, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this proposal? If so, welcome. Identify yourself, please.
My name's Heather Geek, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Healing House and New Beginnings. I'm just going to read from this. Is that okay? Just introducing who we are.
Yep.
The Healing House and New Beginnings is a nonprofit Christ-centered ministry dedicated to serving women recovering from substance use disorder. Rooted in Christ's love, our mission is to rebuild shattered lives through a program of action by teaching spiritual principles that are rooted and grounded in the holy and living Word of God, establishing an unshakable foundation for life. We provide a Christ-centered environment that supports spiritual growth, healing, and recovery. As outlined in our incorporating documents, the Healing House serves as a dedicated outreach ministry to those who suffer from substance use disorder. We are a ministry. We do not provide services to the general public. We serve the women that are already engaged in our housing program. There are no structural changes. The property will be used as classroom, recovery support services, case management, things of that nature. We'll be in the office on the property, Monday through Thursday daytime hours, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we have classroom spaces. And we have arranged parking overflow with Thomas Landwehr, who owns the property down the street, used to be the cab station. That's it.
Councilman Mueller?
Thank you, Mayor. I just might make a quick comment that thank you so much for what you do in our community, and it sounds like you're expanding, and that's great news. And I guess without going into detail, besides when you and or your team came to City Council and we got to recognize you, I met a resident of yours at a local business where the individual had a job, and they were so excited about their job to the point that their smile made me smile, and they had to talk about their life. And I've offered to help in any way I could with the program and in my capacity here at the city. But thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks. All right. Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak in opposition? Ms. Gibson, I see your hand up. Did you have a comment on this issue?
I did not. I just forgot to put it down.
Okay, thank you. And then there's another hand up. Alan, I can't, Golden, were you wanting to make a comment on this issue? You're on mute if you're talking to us. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and if there are no other comments, go ahead and close the hearing. You have 2024-074 in front of you. Any other comments from council? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. We have 2 online.
Job,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Neely,
Aye.
Schwartz,
He's having an issue.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Allers,
Aye.
Hazelton,
Aye.
Schwartz. Give you another shot.
He says not letting him in.
I'll text Doris.
Okay.
Bill passes.
Okay. All right, item B, pending bill 2024-075.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 0.5 acre of land located at 413 and 417 East Capitol Avenue from MU1 mixed use to PUD planned unit development and approving a preliminary PUD plan.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, this is a rezoning request to PUD from the mixed-use zoning district where that property is located right now. This is for 2 tracts of land, one address, one 413, the other 417 East Capitol Avenue. These properties were included in our East Capitol Avenue project. The overlay, as you can see here, also is on this property. That's the historic East Capitol Avenue overlay district. The primary reason for the PUD rezoning in this case is that restaurant is not a permitted use in the underlying zoning, the mixed use. So the applicant is proposing to have a restaurant in this location to remodel the existing building on 413. Essentially, there would be little other building improvements, although there are some minor site improvements. As you can see here, they do intend to include it in a patio on the 417 property, which would be immediately to the east of the existing building, and relocating an existing driveway from directly next to the building to on the far east side of 417. There is existing parking to the rear of that property. This was considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it did receive a positive recommendation by a vote of 8-0. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I believe the applicant is in the audience if there's additional questions if you'd like to speak during the public hearing.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing then. Anybody to speak on behalf of this proposal? Mr. Campeter, any comments you want to make? Anybody to speak in opposition? Anyone else to speak in favor? All right, we'll go ahead and close the hearing. Any other comments from council?
Can't wait for another place to eat.
I think that was a general comment. All right.
I'll agree with Councilman Hazelton. Having a restaurant on Capitol Avenue will be a really neat thing for this city.
All right, we're going to do a roll call vote.
Lester,
Aye.
Michael, Mealy,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Allers, Hazelton,
Aye.
Job.
Aye.
Councilman Schwartz, did you have a vote on the last one since it will not change the outcome? You want to be recorded?
Yeah, I was an aye.
Okay.
My
thank you.
apologies.
Thank you.
All right, and that takes us, to item C, 2024-076.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 21.36 acres located in the 4400 block of Rainbow Drive from RA1 High Density Residential to PUD Planned Unit Development, and approving a preliminary PUD plan and preliminary subdivision plat of Savannah Place subdivision.
Mr. Smith?
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. As the clerk read, this is, again, a rezoning from an underlying zoning, which is RA1, that's a high-density residential district, to PUD. This bill also includes a preliminary PUD plan and subdivision plat, so it does kind of include the subdivision layout of the property. If this is approved tonight, there would still require a final plat of the property to create those lots. But kind of give you a broad overview of the location here. So north of Highway 50, really we're looking at kind of the far west edge of city limits. So you see kind of the northwest corner there of this property. It is zoned RA1, and as I stated earlier, that is a high-density residential district. To the east of that, the yellow shaded areas represent other parts of the property that are currently within the city limits. Anything that doesn't have shading over it is essentially in unincorporated county. A few words about RA1. So that zoning would permit currently up to approximately 12 units per acre, and it does allow up to buildings with 4 units to be constructed on that. This rezoning would be to a PUD, which would, per the applicant, is looking to do something a little different than that, so something that would include a mix of single-family and also two-family kind of townhome-style residential development. This is a little broader aerial photo of that site. As you can see, a little bit of the historical use of that property, a bit as a quarry. The residential development to the east here, which you can see along the immediate east boundary of that. Some of the lots not quite developed yet, but some of the other lots have filled in. The access to this property would be from the south, from Rainbow Drive, and they're also proposing an additional access from the east, which would be essentially, as you can see, Tarabella Drive there, which also intersects with Rainbow. The extension of that is Meeting Street, and that would be extended to the site to allow a second access to that site to provide multiple access points. This is a representation of kind of the layout of that property. A couple of important things to note. That from the original version that was considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission, the original layout had approximately 133 different or total dwelling units on that site, spread out over 72 lots. During the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in November, there was significant feedback from residents. Some of those concerns were with the number of units, with the additional traffic. The applicant then requested a slight delay while they reviewed those comments and considered additional changes to the layout. So what they submitted back to staff as a revised preliminary PUD included the reduction of 17 of the lots that included two-family units, and they took them from two-family to single-family. So it reduced the overall number of units on this site by 17 down to 116 units. They also took the step of identifying kind of the properties that abutted. And again, apologies, I didn't say this, north here on this is to the left, so we've turned kind of the property on the side. But they identified all the properties that abut the existing subdivision to the east of it and made those single family to kind of make for a more smooth transition from that existing single family neighborhood into this neighborhood. Once you get within the neighborhood, then you start to see more of that two-family style development. Many of these lots are approximately 80 feet wide. They would have 2 units on each. And again, the access points for that site would be through an existing location here on Rainbow Drive to the south, and then to the east through Meeting Street. And the applicant had submitted during that public hearing some representations of what they envisioned some of the housing styles would be in this subdivision. So this represents, I think, some two-family options there on the top left, in addition to some of the single-family options. Again, a couple additional and the applicants here tonight, they can speak a little bit more, I think, to their intended design for this residential subdivision. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, The commission did vote 4-3 to recommend approval of the PUD. They did include a condition, which is something that the planning and zoning can recommend and council can also approve through a PUD. And that condition was that a traffic impact analysis would be completed before they actually move forward to the final platting and final design of this site. Typically, the city would only require a traffic impact analysis when there's trips generated in excess of 100 during the peak hour. So essentially during rush hour, if there's going to be 100 additional vehicle trips generated from a subdivision or from a site, then they would take the step of engaging with an engineering firm to conduct a study to make sure there weren't any dramatic or significant impacts generally to a lot of the intersections around that site. And if there was findings that there was some impacts there, there could be mitigation that comes out of that traffic impact analysis. So the planning and zoning did feel it was appropriate, even though they didn't meet that threshold, that they go ahead and take that additional step to try to, I think, speak to some of those concerns of the residents. So with that additional recommendation, they did vote 4-3 in favor of this subdivision and PUD plan, with that additional condition that a traffic impact analysis be submitted prior to them or concurrently with them submitting their final plat for approval. So they would need to submit that and would be reviewed by our public works staff and go through the findings and identify if there are any kind of mitigation steps that need to be taken. With that said, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Spencer.
So to clarify this, under the original proposal, it did not meet the threshold for a traffic evaluation or traffic study. And with them coming back and even reducing the number of properties for the development, that even reduces the need even further. So I would like to propose we change or make an amendment to this proposal that we eliminate the traffic study requirement that was recommended from the planning and zoning.
That's appropriate, not at this time though. So I'll come back to you and you can make that. Let's get the hearing and get pro and con, and then we'll wait. We'll put the bill back on the table and you can amend it.
Thank
you. Is there someone here from the proposal that would like to speak on behalf of the project?
Hi.
Looking down the line. You got the short straw, I guess?
I didn't know if my engineer wanted to speak.
That's fine. You just identify yourself. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for allowing me time to speak to you all. I am a home builder. I'm a developer. I haven't done any projects in Jeff City yet. I'm very excited about this project. I'm very excited about building homes that people can buy for under $300,000, which sounds crazy that that's inexpensive, but by today's standards on new construction homes, it's very hard to, with costs, to get below $300,000. And I have some neighborhoods in Columbia and Boone County where I'm currently doing this, and it is hard, but we build in a lot of price points. We build homes well over $1 million, and we are intentionally trying to build communities like this one where home ownership is really out of reach for a lot of people. First-time home buyer is kind of really being reduced. It's not my opinion. That's statistics that are printed by many experts, which I am not. But I just wanted to have the opportunity to say that the reason for this development in this area is I want to build something that isn't out there that will help people afford a home. I am not interested in rentals. I can even add that to the PUD if necessary, if that appeases any opposition. This is not what this is about. This is about building something that someone can attain that might not otherwise. And yes, there are used homes, for lack of a better word, pre-owned, whatever, homes that can meet the needs of that under 300,000, but statistics with the Jefferson City Board of Realtors, which you all have a letter from them in your packet in support of this. You know, it's there's not a lot of them out there, and generally speaking, if they are a property that's not stressed, there's multiple offers on those type of properties because there's more buyers than there are properties. So I just wanted to say that, and I'll stand here as long as you all want me to. If you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
I'd just like to say, I know you've done a lot of work on this project. I'm aware that we have a critical housing shortage in this community, so I appreciate you stepping up and coming in, making some adjustments to the proposal to try to make it fit the neighborhood. So I appreciate all the work that you've done on this project. Councilman Lyko, I see your hand up. You have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a statement, really. It's actually a noble cause to make the statement that you're trying to stay under 300,000, knowing most of us know what expense it is to build a home of virtually any size today to stay underneath that. And certainly that squeezes any profit a company could make when you make that promise. So that's a noble cause. Thank you.
Councilman Allers?
I want to agree with Councilman Lyko. Coming on here, we heard that we're lacking all levels of housing in Jeff City, and we've heard it from some of our Unilever, the Hitachi and everybody. It's a thing that I think all 10 of us want to tackle that, and so we appreciate you coming into Jeff City and wanting to build this out. What would, I know it depends on what you put down and all that stuff, but what would a house like this, a monthly payment be for someone?
I mean, I think that depends on how much money they put down, what the interest rates are at the time.
$1,500 roughly.
Both my sons are here. Ori handles a lot of our real estate. Yeah, yes.
I like putting him on the podium.
I'm not a mortgage lender, I'm a realtor, so.
But it's expensive. There's just.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Surprised of what a small house, even today's standards, you still have to have two incomes to really do a size of house like this and all that. So I think the duplexes or whatever, townhomes, however you want to call them, we have a mixture of that. I think that helps out by maybe having people that don't want a house anymore, maintain it, move into something along this line that's smaller and opens up other houses to be on the market. So because we don't have many on the market either. I thought it was less than 100. Was it a month or two ago we heard? Or right at 100. There wasn't a lot even in today's market on there for Jeff City. So I think this helps a lot. Would you plan, if this all goes through, when would you plan on starting all this?
Well, if it passes tonight, it's my understanding that it has to go back through planning and zoning for the final plan. And then, is that correct? Or is that
Correct, yes.
And then council again?
Yes.
And then both of those are public hearings, is that correct? Did I read that right?
Yes.
Because that's a little bit different than I'm familiar with.
The plat technically isn't a public hearing, but the PUD.
Okay. So I don't know what type of process that is in time. I guess some of that has to do with my engineer and how much other work he has and how fast he can build those plans and submit those to the city. But if this passes tonight, then yes, my engineer has to go ahead to go full steam ahead on construction plans and then submit those to the city. And then whenever that process is done, I can use those plans to get bids for the infrastructure from companies that go in and put the sewer, the streets, talk to utility companies about putting the infrastructure in. And then when that's done, we start building. And
I didn't know how far along your process was for you.
And then the market in Jeff City will dictate like how many we build at a time. We don't want to go in there and build all of them and then half of them sit for 2 years. It's not going to be good.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Is there anybody to speak in opposition to the project?
I'm John Conrad, president of the Charleston Place Homeowners Association. It's the property just to the east of that, so on your picture there, above that, if you will. Done a lot of research, contacted a number of the residents. While some of the neighbors are opposed, totally opposed to this project, I believe that most are open to the development of this land, but we don't want a project that either compromises the beautiful neighborhood that we already have, reduces the property value of our homes, and then, very significantly, the safety concern with the traffic that this is going to bring to the area of an already busy area, and I'll touch on all those things. To begin with, I'll just give a little brief past and recent history here. So Charleston Place was developed by Kent George and Dr. Roger Cameron in 1994. The original covenants included a neighborhood pool and clubhouse. 2 years after, so a number of houses were sold and everything. 2 years after that, in '96, the developers amended the covenants themselves, removed the pool and clubhouse, kind of pulling the rug out from underneath those existing homeowners. The other thing is we're now 30 years into this development and only 45 of the existing 65 single-family lots have been sold. I'm not a developer myself, but I think there's only one other subdivision in Jeff City that I'm aware of that has a pool and a clubhouse. And my feeling is if they would have kept that, they probably could have easily sold those existing 20 lots in a 30-year time span. So, in fact, the only 2 lots that have been built on in the last number of years are on Terravella. They're two-unit townhomes that were built by the existing developers. Started the 2 of those have sold, 2 of them have sat vacant for approximately 2 years. Those prices started at the upper 400,000s, dropped to the mid 400,000s. There's no signs in the yard, and when I checked today, to my knowledge, they're not even on the market. So take that for what it's worth. Another little thing to share to make sure everybody's transparent and knowledge of everything. So the developer of this is JJR Development. That JJR is Jeff Hemme, who just spoke, Joe Cameron, who is Roger Cameron's son, one of the Charleston Place developers, and Roger Cameron himself. So with this commonality of both current and future developers and some of the past empty promises that I'll touch on a little bit more, and the poor track record of being able to market and develop the existing Charleston Place, there's some question of why we should expect anything different in the new property. So like they mentioned, 116 units, it was modified to that, 72 lots, which is 28 single families, 44 two-family units. That proposal says the goal is to provide attainable housing for under 300,000. Yet another part of the proposal references the single-family homes to be 2,000 square foot and 3,000 square foot for the townhomes, with having siding and decorative rock or brick. Current building cost are every bit of $200 per square foot. So if we do the math, that single-family home that's 2,000 square foot is going to be more like 400,000, and then those townhomes split into 2. That'll make that 300,000, assuming materials and labor don't increase. So in those, I'm in the business that I do replacement costs for homes all the time, and I really question the renderings that were shown up there. Those were nice in the quality and everything, that those can be built for 300,000. So our concern is what's being proposed and what's actually going to come. Are we talking the same thing or 2 different things? With regards to the property values, the existing homes in Charleston Place are selling probably at a minimum of $500,000 a piece. So that's what our concern is. Are we, we're overlooking now this and compromising the value of the homes that we live in. In the proposal with the PUD, one of the positives to this, to go from the current zoning, is that the developer has to include covenants, conditions, and restrictions. What we would like, what we would ask to protect the value of ours is to address subjects like the architectural design, and this doesn't limit to these things, and we'd be open to having discussion, but to address things like exterior surfaces, roofing pitch and materials.
If I could just interrupt, you actually have 5 minutes more, so the first speaker is supposed to have 10.
Okay, that's what I was told, sorry, I didn't know what I was. Okay. Get into maybe minimum square footages. I appreciate Jeff mentioning the occupancy. The fact that those being owner occupied is a big concern for us versus being rental. And then maybe even touching on things like landscaping, upkeep of properties, where you can park cars, and not a bunch of inoperable cars parked in driveways on the streets and what have you. Rules for detached structures and fences and stuff like that. I just touch on that, just those are things that are of concern, and we'd be happy to have conversations about that. Probably the biggest concern is the increased traffic. And basically there's Meeting Street, which is on there, and you may be able to see it in your packet. So what's proposed for this Savannah Place is an entrance off of Rainbow Drive and then a second entrance off of Meeting Street, which runs right into Charleston Place. That intersection there, where Meeting Street and Terabella are actually about a block down from that, is highly trafficked right now with just cars zooming through there. They basically cut from Rainbow Drive and go up and pop out at Truman Drive, kind of by Domenico's in that general area. It's used as a shortcut right now. You add 100 and some more units in that area, just feeding to that is of concern of ours. Some of the other neighbors hopefully will address some of that with the weather. I know obviously hardly any of them were able to make it tonight, but hopefully some of them were on the team's call there. I know they touched on, the planning and zoning requiring the traffic study for that, and I know we didn't meet the criteria, and but I will and with the reduction of lots, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with Councilman Spencer on that. And the thing that I've never got an answer from anybody on the city, and if somebody can enlighten me today, I would love to hear it, is, so we're talking about traffic count of these additional 100 and some lots here, but I've never got taken into consideration of, yes, that's a standalone piece of property. This isn't a subdivision on Route C between here and Russellville. It's in an area that's already almost totally developed around it. Basically, Rainbow Drive and Henwick, all to the west, all come in Rainbow Drive and come to South Country Club Drive right now as their way into town. So what is the impact of this subdivision going to add to an already congested area? I mean, for example, at Rainbow Drive and South Country Club Drive within the last 5 years has been 2 fatalities that I know of. That's awful that happens, but just the sheer inconvenience of that getting backed up literally at peak times, that intersection as it is now backed up all the way to the gas station. Like us coming out of Charleston Place, if I'm trying to go to work right at 8 o'clock, I can't even exit my subdivision because the traffic is so backed up. So with that said, I think there is some importance to understanding the traffic study of that. And if somebody can enlighten me how that impacts that, because I think the traffic, the analysis of that is on an isolated situation and not compounded with the existing that's going on. So with that said, just to conclude what I opened up with, hey, we're open to the development of this land, but we just don't want a project that compromises our existing neighborhood, reduces our property value, or compromises the safety of our families and where we live.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else in support of the project? Just identify yourself. We'll be going to 5 minutes at this point.
I will not need that. Thank you. My name is Paul Sampson with the Jefferson City Regional Economic Partnership. JC Reppin, along with our public and private partners, has been actively involved in efforts to increase the housing supply throughout Jefferson City over the last several years. Having an adequate supply of housing of all types and at all price levels is necessary to attract skilled workforce that all of our industries and businesses rely on for their success. In recent years, new housing developments in Jefferson City have not kept pace with the need of our growing business community to attract that workforce, and the 2019 tornado caused additional strain on the housing market. We're frequently told by our business partners that Jefferson City is a prime location for growth of their businesses, adding in the good cost of living, excellent schools, and the quality of life makes Jefferson City prime for expansion opportunities in several large businesses. However, the ability to attract the needed workforce presents a challenge to those businesses. The proposed development before you tonight is an opportunity to begin to address our housing challenges. I've actually been working with Mr. Hemme on this project for over 2 years whenever he first came to Jefferson City. Over that time, we've looked at a number of different concepts with various lot densities and lot layouts. The existing property with the zoning as it is would actually permit up to 250 units, multifamily, with no public comment. That's a permitted use with the zoning as it sits today. All he needs is a building permit. So what he has proposed, and really the goal that we've looked at as we've gone through this process, has not been to maximize the number of units and to maximize the profit on the property, but to provide a housing product that currently is not available in Jefferson City. A product that makes home ownership attainable for a large segment of the community. We sought to create a development that's complementary to the adjacent neighborhood, and the fact that Mr. Hemme has revised the development plan to address the concerns raised by the neighborhood is a testament to that. I want to thank Mr. Hemme for his willingness to invest in Jefferson City, and I hope that the City Council will approve his proposal tonight, bring the much-needed housing to the city, and to send a message to other developers that are looking at investing in Jefferson City that we are open for business. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the proposal?
I'd like to speak, but I'm not sure how to get on the list.
You're on the list right now. You're up. If you could just identify yourself, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is Vicki Ruth, and I'm one of the residents in the Charleston Place neighborhood. And I do want to say that I concur with everything that Mr. Conrad has said. And, you know, as part of that, one of our main concerns is the traffic, and we would greatly appreciate the council considering incorporating that traffic study as has been discussed. And then my next comment is part comment, part question. There have been several comments this time and at the last hearing about how that area in the old quarry has been zoned this multifamily PUD type development, and that many houses or duplexes or apartments could go in there with no further action of the committee. But it's my understanding that that is incorrect, because it's overlooking the piece of information that when that was originally developed, or I'm sorry, designated as PUD, they could have high density in there with only one road in and out. But I gather something has changed, or where the roads would go have changed. Now, in order to develop that area, it's my understanding that fire codes or something require a second entryway in and out. And that is a large part of the problem I have. The proposal has that second entryway going where there is a single family lot that's kind of on that little corner, inside corner of where Meeting Street meets Catalina. And it changes that single family lot on Catalina into part of the PUD development so that that can be turned into the road. So there is a zoning change that has to be done in order to allow this process. And I don't understand why that keeps getting overlooked. It's not mentioned, it's not discussed. Catalina Drive, that area's, you know, single family lots, nice large homes. And that lot is also single family. and would have the road, I gather the little road, that gravel road that's there now isn't large enough to go down to the quarry. And so that would have to be changed. Again, I just urge the commission, the city council, sorry, to take our concerns into account and at the very least include the traffic study before you make a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody to speak in support? You can just identify yourself, please, sir. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Gary Plummer. I'm the president and CEO of the Jefferson City Area Chamber of Commerce. We represent over 900 businesses and professional organizations in the community. I'm here on their behalf to support the request by Savannah Place to rezone 21 acres. The Chamber embarked on a strategic planning exercise about 3 years ago, and during the early stages of that effort, both workforce and talent emerged as one of the 5 priorities that we have at the Chamber today. Our workforce coalition early on identified 2 primary barriers to finding and employing people in our community, and they are childcare and housing. I've talked to dozens of businesses throughout the workforce coalition, our manufacturers roundtable, and I know you heard from the chairman of the manufacturers roundtable, Mr. Whelan, our government relations committee, and other members of the chamber. They all believe we have to change our community's population trajectory by addressing the need for housing across the affordability spectrum. Savannah Place is one of the most exciting opportunities we've seen in years. The Chamber's here to support the project and ask that the City Council and the city staff make every reasonable effort to try to make this project a reality. And that effort obviously starts tonight with a yes vote. And thank you for your consideration of that request.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the proposal? There's a hand raised, but can you identify, are you wanting to speak in opposition? If you're responding, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now, Mayor?
Yeah, we can now.
Can you hear me
Just
now?
identify yourself, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Charlie Little. I reside in the Charleston Place subdivision on the corner of where Terabella comes to a joint with the meeting place. And our president, Mr. Conrad, has done an excellent job describing a lot of the concerns of myself and the residents of our neighborhood with Charleston Place. Being taken care of so far was should these properties have multiple children, which most subdivisions would. Our current school that's south of us, or actually I guess it would be west of us, near the Apache Flats area, that's the only school. And these children, they're working out of the mobile buildings now. The question would be is where are these children going to be going to school? Are they going to have to be bused across town because there's no school available? And that would be a pretty big major concern. And also, again, it's in opposition. If the board would have or the council would have the opportunity to drive in that area, you'd see this property. There's a reason why it hasn't sold by Mr. Cameron and his developers in the many years past, like 30 plus years. It's a retired rock quarry. It is just that. It's a giant rock quarry bowl. I cannot imagine it being easily to put a sewer lines and sewer developments in there. We just recently had socket cable come through, and they had an awful time running cable just in our own neighborhood because of just the rocks in our own yards. And I'm talking about major car-sized rocks. I'm not talking about little pebbles. Likewise, in this quarry, it's nothing but a solid rock bottom. can't imagine where you get enough surface dirt or soil to take care of any of that. Also, to add to what Mr. Conrad said, this traffic on Tarabella, like he said, is a shortcut coming from the Rainbow Drive area. Like he said, the shortcut going across. They're actually using this with trucks going through here, which are not supposed to be. We've had multiple issues asking for police and or sheriff to come and monitor the traffic area because the stop sign is useless on Tarabella and Meeting Place. No one stops at it, and it's just it's a traffic hazard. Multiple times myself and my neighbors have close calls with accidents backing out onto the street. And I cannot imagine adding an additional 100 plus vehicles and or an area to get out of. Thank you for letting me speak.
All right, thank you for your comments. Anyone else to speak in favor of it? You can just identify yourself, please. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Strump. I'm engineer for Central Missouri Professional Services. I'm the one who drew up the plat stuff. I just wanted to address something about the traffic and that issue. The planning and zoning was brought up. We looked into it more. We got a unique situation in regards, it goes from city to county to county to city, but then Rainbow Drive, when we meet Truman, is state property. And they've done, after talking to the city, after planning and zoning, I went and talked to the city, their staff. And apparently, the state has already done their kind of own traffic study, and they know it needs to be upgraded in regards where Rainbow meets Truman, in regards to proposing like a roundabout. But it's not a high priority, the funding, I'm not sure on that part. But there's been a traffic study. They know it needs to be upgraded at that intersection, which will relieve a lot of the traffic issues. Unfortunately, it's not the city, it's not the county, not the developer, it is the state issue since it's on state right-of-way. So I just want to bring that up in regards to traffic study. We have been trying to address it, but it's going to be on our hands. The state has looked at it already. Funding, for whatever reason, they haven't addressed it. Maybe that could be more addressed from the city standpoint to the state to see if that can get addressed and proposed of some sort. So.
Well, you're referring to the state STIP. It's on their unfunded needs list. We've got some members here on council that sit on CAMPO, our regional metropolitan planning. It is in the design phase. I think it's a 4-quadrant proposal, and the northwest quadrant is the one you're talking about, which is my understanding their priority once they get funding to
that's what I was understood
to that next tier. So
I mean, like I said,
that the state is looking at that, and they've done an exhaustive study.
Exactly. So, like I said, a traffic study kind of has been done already. They know there's an issue already. It's just going through the process through the state. So.
Well, they've done it on between 50 and the road. I mean, I think they're talking about it. It's in that same general area. You're correct. So. Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition? Anyone else to speak in favor? All right, we're going to go ahead and close the.
Stacia Connor.
Are you speaking
Hello.
in opposition?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I tried to hit the button for yes, opposition, yes, please, but apparently my fat fingers and it didn't go quick enough. So.
No, you're good. You're up. You have up to 5 minutes. If you could just identify yourself, please.
Sure. Hopefully, I won't take that much time. My name is Stacia Carr, and I am the owner of 4201 Catalina Drive. Me and my husband bought this property a couple years ago, so we haven't lived in this area that long. However, I will tell you part of why we purchased this property after looking for many years was we wanted a safe and beautiful neighborhood. And we are lucky that we live in Jefferson City and there are a lot of those, but it did take a while for us to find that. I paid a lot of money for this property and way too much, but that is what it is. But it was one of those things that we moved into a community where us as neighbors, we are all very close. We know a lot about each other's family. We have a community, and I love how safe and welcoming this neighborhood is. And I know that that's not a big important thing, but one of the important things for me is, as a recent owner, my children. We purchased this property because of how it was safe and it was quiet and everybody there was just so welcoming. I am directly across from this development and the traffic is a bigger issue than we anticipated when we purchased this property already. We were not aware of all the traffic issues we moved into. But adding this many units, I'm appreciative of Mr. Hemme going back and reducing some of the unit size. I do appreciate that. And that meant a lot as far as, I was concerned that he was willing to do that. But this is still a huge development. And this development is going to affect my everyday life, our neighborhood's everyday life, and our children's everyday life. And I know many people, we're just one of thousands in this community, and I can understand that. But the safety issue, as far as my children and playing outside, and all the children in the neighborhood that do play outside, my neighbors speak all the time about how they see me and my kids outside and how they love it. And we were fortunate enough that we can do those things. The problem I mainly have is the safety and the traffic. But one thing, speaking to earlier comments for us that are against this, is the one lot on Catalina. So I am right on Catalina, directly will be affected by this development. The one lot on Catalina, that's the corner little lot. I know everyone keeps talking about Meeting Street. So Meeting Street is here nor there. We call it all Terabella because Terabella goes up and connects to Catalina. So there is this little piece of that road that is referred to as Meeting Street. However, the current zoning does not allow for that lot to be built on. As far as anything this development is doing, that is not allowed. The current zoning allows for, yes, more units, but you do not get access off of Catalina Drive. Catalina Drive is supposed to be single family homes. When I purchased this property, I checked all of the zoning. I actually spoke with multiple people, and it is a single family lot. That lot is currently even listed for sale as a single family lot with associated real estate because the owners and developers know that is supposed to be a single family home. Catalina Drive is beautiful, large homes, and it should stay that way. By accessing off of Catalina Drive, they have to have that to do this development. So there is zoning and affecting of our entire neighborhood, our safety, the traffic, our property values, everything by having that access off of Catalina. I also would just like to note, there are lots of people who wanted to be there tonight, lots of my neighbors. They didn't want to make the drive. A lot of them did not want to deal with the teams and technology, which I can understand. We have a lot of older people in our community, and that was just not something they were comfortable doing. I would just ask that you look in the packet as far as at the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, how many of us showed up and how many of us spoke in opposition of this development. There was a huge presence we had at the Planning and Zoning Committee. And I would say if the weather wasn't the way that it is, that presence would be there tonight as well. As I can tell you, 10 people right now that were planning on coming, including myself, that are not there. And those 10 did not want to get online. So I would just ask that you look at that list of everyone who was against this development, to just take that in consideration for your vote. And I ask that you do not approve for this development to proceed forward with the way that it is set out as far as to be developed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else to speak in favor of the project? Anyone else to speak in opposition to the project? All right, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We have 2024-076 in front of you. Mr. Smith, did you have a comment you want to make?
I think we were just going to respond a little bit back to the questions about some of the intersections of Rainbow Drive. And I know that some of our planning staff that worked on this also, I think, through the Campo had really identified that intersection for those reasons, that there is a lot of growth along Rainbow, and it's appropriate, I think, as there is growth, to note where intersections might need additional study. And so I think the one at
Rainbow at South Country Club.
Yeah, Rainbow at South Country Club was identified as adding to our unfunded list. So it's something that adds some additional spotlight on there that I think lets MoDOT know that, hey, we're growing out here. Some attention may need to be paid to this intersection in the future. So that's kind of, I think it's kind of appropriate and it's kind of standard practice, I think, as you see growth and development to identify these areas that might need some attention. At this point, if there is a traffic study, I think it would look at that intersection, and if there are any major significant concerns right away, then we know it at least at that point.
Councilman Spencer, did you want to make your motion at this point?
I would.
Second it.
Let's let him make it first. Would you like to make your amendment?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the proposed PUD that allows a traffic study. I'd like to eliminate that language.
Councilman?
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you very much.
Just as a point of clarification, this would be an elimination of section 4 in the ordinance. Section 5, I understand what you're driving at.
Thank you.
And are you comfortable with seconding elimination of?
I am comfortable with seconding the elimination of section 4.
All right, what you have in front of you is the amendment. So discussion needs to pertain to that amendment. Councilman Lightfoot.
Mr. Mayor, just from a kind of a procedural thing, is it advisable for us to override what the Planning and Zoning Committee voted out of their committee as a whole, not just one member?
Well, it comes to you as a recommendation, but you have the authority to make decisions on behalf of the city, so. Councilman Lester, then Councilwoman Young. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to shut you off, it's just, it comes to you as a recommendation, but you can amend, change, up, down, it's a recommendation come to council, but council is the elected body to make the final decisions.
I was just, is it appropriate for the person that chairs that committee to make that recommendation whenever he serves on that committee and they voted 4-3 with the traffic study to be done?
I don't serve on planning and zoning.
Okay.
That would be my
Public Works.
Gotcha.
We don't, that's a citizens commission. There's no council members on it. We have a liaison who is Councilman Hazelton, but there's no council members on planning and zoning. Councilman Lester.
I'm certainly for this project going forward, but given the planning and zoning's recommendation for a traffic study, and from what I've heard tonight, with enough questions about traffic in the area, I just think it's the traffic study should remain in the bill and should be done just to make sure we've got all the infrastructure appropriate for this type of project.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Young.
Thank you. I too agree. I am the councilwoman for the ward in which you'll be building, so I'm all for expanding houses, bringing additional houses. I know that there's a problem. However, I do represent all constituents, and I have heard that they do have reasons to be concerned, which has been pointed out with the traffic flow. So I would like for the traffic study to remain in, just so that my constituents can feel like their voice has been heard from both ends.
Councilman Aller.
I just have a question. If we don't know how many he's going to be able to build because it's going to be market driven, how do you, you can see that there's 116 homes there, figuring out that you would be able to, you don't know what time of the day, where these people will work and all that stuff. I don't know how a traffic study would help with that. The only thing you can, in that area besides Catalina is you do get, that big subdivision back by Woodward Lake that comes in off of there. I think Sharon comes and hits Rainbow and all that back there. So I think that has to tie into something, some of that with Rainbow, because that's a huge development. And you also have, Elmer Ridge out there too. So I don't know how a traffic study on a proposed development that we don't know who moves in there, how many vehicles they have, could give us any more information. It is, I think, if I remember right, it is on a thing from Campo that we were looking at, because we also looked at that overpass by the Capitol Mall and all that, as far as they're looking at trying to ease up stuff there. So I know all that is underway in that area from the meetings we've had at Campo, and it's just, I think people have already saw that we've got the growth in that area, and how can we move this up on the ladder of funded needs and all that for us, because right now, I don't know what a project like that would cost, so I don't know how a traffic study could be done. The gentleman from CMPS or somebody like that would, or somebody, maybe Mr. Sampson knows how that's well done, can educate me a little bit further on how do you do a traffic study on something that's not built yet.
Any other comments on the amendment? Councilman Spencer?
Yeah, I just think that, again, we have our professional experts within the city that understood that even with the original proposed development, did not trigger a traffic study. We've lessened the number of parcels, number of finished build-outs on that development. I just think we need to use some common sense here and go to ease the burden of our developer here that's trying to get some housing that we desperately need.
All right, you have the amendment in front of you, which would eliminate that section. We're going to do. You have a comment?
I have a question.
Councilman Miller?
Thank you. And maybe I missed it. I was trying to send an email, but the traffic study is paid for by the developer. Is that correct?
Typically, that is the way it would work.
Okay. Does this developer have an estimate of what that traffic study might cost him?
So I have permission to speak?
I don't either.
Yeah, if you just come up to the podium, identify yourself again, please, Mr. Hemming.
Jeff Hemming, developer. There's a range on that cost, and depending on what kind of traffic study that is required of me in a neighborhood. Since the city has their own engineers that has a formula to use to determine if the new proposed development triggers a required traffic study, and they've done that assessment and made the decision that it did not trigger. I realize neighbors are concerned about traffic. So I don't know if this is appropriate, but and I apologize, Councilman Spencer, I do not have a problem with doing a traffic study. If that helps the neighbors have peace of mind, because I'm not an engineer. I have the confidence that the traffic study is going to have the same results that the city engineers already did, because that's what they know how to do, and I'm not an engineer, so I'm fine with doing a traffic study.
Where do you go to find a traffic study?
There are companies that do that. I mean, I don't know how many, but I mean, on the document tonight, one of the other bills, there was a traffic study company on that one. And I've used that company before, and I was told they have an office here in Jeff City, so that might be a good starting point. I don't know them personally, but.
I don't want to be overly burdensome to you, but at the same time, and I understand the reality of it, as mentioned by Councilman Allers, but, if that provides peace of mind, like you just said.
I don't have a problem with it, and I apologize for you all who spoke up about that. But I'm here to try to be reasonable. I feel like I am. I know no matter what I do, there's going to be people not happy with the outcome, and I don't know how to fix that.
Sure. Thank you.
Councilman Spencer.
I'll remove my motion.
I remove my second to remove section 4.
So you're withdrawing the amendment?
I'm withdrawing.
All right, you're back to the original 2024-076 Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Michael?
Aye.
Mealy?
Aye.
Schwartz?
Aye.
Spencer?
Aye.
Spicer?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
Allers?
Aye.
Puzzleton?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Bill passes.
Thank you very much. All right, appointments by the mayor, item 7. You have a list in front of you.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye. That was on the list of appointments. Am I missed? Okay. I'm sorry, Ron, I couldn't hear what was going on.
The appointment. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I did, for my information, I'd like to write down who's the first and second. Was it Mike and Trika?
Mike Lester and Teresa Young.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay. All right, takes us to item 8, presentation from staff consultants and invited guests. We have struck item 8A, so we will go to item 9. Announcements by mayor, council, and staff. Councilman Allers, anything from admin committee?
March 5th, 7:30 a.m., next meeting.
All right. Councilman Schwartz, finance?
Finance, Thursday, 7:30 in the morning, pending the weather.
All right, public safety, Councilman Lyko, I know you guys just met. You have a March date?
It'll be the fourth Thursday of the month, which.
That's fine.
The 6th. It's the first Thursday.
Not public safety.
Oh, 27th. I said first Thursday.
27th February then. I skipped.
Yeah, 27th February this month.
I skipped a month on you. And then Public Works, Councilman Spencer.
Our next meeting will be March 13th at 7:30 here in the council chamber.
All right, any other announcements? Councilman Hauser.
Planning and zoning also on the 13th at 5:30. And also out of our last planning and zoning, to add to our recent addition of housing, there is an approximate 19 lot subdivision coming in on the west end as well. So more to follow on that, as it's probably going to be presented next council meeting as a bill introduced.
So just point of clarification, so that's a preliminary plat, which is similar to the one we saw tonight, but it doesn't have a rezoning component with the PUD. So that actually, at that stage, is approved by planning and zoning. So council won't see the preliminary plat, but when they come back for the final plat, then they will.
So in other words, more great things coming.
Good. The only comment I have, Mr. Bangy, thank your crews for all their work over
We'll pass that along.
day, and I'm guessing the next 24 to 48 hours, and thank our 2 chiefs for extra duty for you folks out there keeping us safe. So if you just pass along our appreciation for the extra workload. Item 10, consent agenda. You have a list of items there in front of you. We'll need to approve a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, takes us to bills introduced, 2024-078.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Bartlett and West in the amount of $330,803 for a tri-level interchange and Rex Witness planning study and a budget amendment for $40,401.50 to allow for the procurement of professional services.
Mr. Smith, I would remind you there's a proposed check mark there as we go through the discussion.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll go through a little bit of history of this quickly. Just a little background. So into 2023-24, beginning of 2024, the chamber and JC Rep, I think approached Campo about the possibility of doing a traffic study, a planning study for the tri-level area, which is a little unique. It is a MoDOT roadway, but after some discussions, Campo did vote, and the board there did vote to allocate approximately $200,000 from consolidated planning grant, which comes from the National Highway Transportation Authority. That did require a match from the 2 entities. Usually that's the city and the county. So the match there would be approximately $50,000. It's an 80-20 split. The city and the county at that time had agreed to propose and allocate $25,000 to make up the 50 of the 250, which would be kind of the bottom end of the range based on our discussions of what a traffic study might be. So it was 250 on the low end and 500,000. So I think at that time the expectation was if it was beyond that minimum amount, we'd come back to those bodies and ask for and see if they were interested in funding the additional amount that would take to have that study. So fast forward through the last year and just kind of paraphrase our staff, really once that was approved by Campo, spent a lot of time getting this and amending the Campo budget and did a really great job of kind of, I think, prioritizing that. Did run into a few speed bumps along the way, working alongside our counterparts at MoDOT and some of the other organizations kind of slowed things down a little bit, but it was important to do that to make sure that the study we wound up with could be utilized in future studies. And so we wanted to make sure the state and the federal authorities were kind of understood what the planning study would be and that it would fit within whatever necessary kind of parameters were needed to actually further those studies and further actual construction projects in the future, because we do want this to feed into possible construction projects. So after we identified a potential consultant, Bartlett West, to do that work, we met with them to kind of come up with a final scoping. They came back with a cost of that kind of scope of project and was a little higher than our 250. Our staff worked with them a little bit more to kind of sharpen the pencils and see if we can get closer to our 250. The final contract that was agreed to and that Campo did approve was a contract for $330,000. So that essentially means instead of a $25,000 allotment from each, the county and the city would be $65,000 total, so $40,000 in addition to that original 25. So the bill in front of you tonight with the check mark, which was proposed by the Public Works and Planning Committee, to kind of move this along. I think given that it has been a little bit of an extended timeline, again, working with our state partners to kind of slow things down a little bit, they felt it necessary, I think, to go ahead and get this moving so we can get the contract signed and get Bartlett West started on the study sooner than later. So the bill tonight then would approve the contract with Bartlett West and that budget adjustment to allocate $40,000 more than that original budgeted allotment. So I'm happy to answer any more questions. Mr. Bangy worked quite a bit on that study as well, so he can answer probably a lot more of the technical questions when it comes with that study. Again, both of our Public Works and Planning staff put a lot of time into getting this, I think, forward to where it is, and be happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Spencer, did you have a request?
Yeah, I request that we suspend the rules to pass 2024-078 tonight.
Is there any opposition to suspending the rules on this item? As Mr. Smith indicated, this has been in front of you before. All right, I'm going to ask the clerk to go ahead and read it, and we'll get it on the table, and then we'll take any other questions or comments.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Bartlett West in the amount of $330,803 for a tri-level interchange in Rex Whitten Expressway planning study and a budget amendment for $40,401.50 to allow for the procurement of professional services.
All right, you now have 2024-078 in front of you. Are there any other comments, questions? All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Mealy?
Aye.
Schwartz?
Aye.
Spencer?
Aye.
Spicer?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
Allers?
Aye.
Hazelton?
Aye.
Job? Lester?
Aye.
Weichel?
Aye.
Bill passes.
All right. Next item, 2024-079.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Friedel Engineering Resources in the amount of $68,600 for geotechnical investigation and design services for the Water Street stabilization project.
Mr. Bangy, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so this would be a project in the 700 block of Water Street. So that is the little alley basically that runs behind the houses that face the 700 block of Cliff Street, just right up by the bridge as you cross the river. So we've had some issues with that street. It's built up on kind of the edge of the bluff. Some of that material has been sloughing off, and we've been losing the outside edge of that road. We did a project back in 2011 that fixed the western end of the road, and at that time the eastern end didn't show a lot of distress. But since that time, the eastern end of the road has failed in about 3 places, and there are other places that are beginning to show stress cracks in the asphalt. So ultimately, in order to try to solve the issue of that road sliding down the hill, we're entering this contract hopefully with Riddell to design a stabilization for that slope and then to reconstruct the roadway. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. When you adopted the agenda, we took item 2024-80 off, so we'll go to.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Schwartz.
I'd like to move to bring that bill up for introduction.
I'm looking to our city attorney.
And I just want to say, according to our rules, the motion to lay on the table is not in order until the bill is up, and it's never in order to delay the hearing of the bill.
It wasn't a motion to lay on the table, it's a motion to postpone indefinitely.
No, it was a motion to lay on the table was the motion.
What does that mean?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We're gonna need a legal ruling on the language.
The motion was to postpone indefinitely, to remove it from.
It was not the motion. The motion was to lay it on the table.
Table indefinitely. Table indefinitely, which is not a form of motion that's recognized under Robert's rules, so the closest corollary to that would be a motion to postpone indefinitely, which would be an
That's
appropriate.
an absolute incorrect.
Which would be an
That's an
appropriate
absolute
motion.
incorrect. I challenge the ruling of the parliamentary.
He is appropriate as well. So if he wants to make that motion, then he can do so.
To bring it back.
That is absolutely incorrect.
Okay.
The motion was to table.
Procedural vote, it could be.
He's agreeing with you, Councilman. He's saying that it's appropriate to bring it back at this point.
All right, let's bring it up, and I'd like to hold the floor, and I'd like to inquire of Councilman Leichel.
Well, we're gonna need a second on.
Second.
All right, you've got 2024-080. I need to read that again.
Are we?
Sorry, we're just
Are we
clarifying.
taking a roll call vote to bring it back up?
You got the motion, it's on the floor. Now
Do we need to read it
discuss.
again?
Discussion.
It's just a motion to bring it back, right? So there's no reading.
I'm sorry.
There's no reading.
There is no reading. This is a motion to place it back onto the agenda.
Okay. All right, we're just clarifying, Councilman Schwartz. So the motion on the table is to bring it back to the council. It's been seconded, so it's a valid motion, and you wanted to make a comment.
I would like to inquire of Councilman Leichel.
You
have a question for me?
Yes.
I do. I have several.
Fire away.
So you said in your earlier diatribe that this is not the correct place to bring up substance of this sort. However, as the president of the Parks Commission, you brought this exact situation to the Parks Board. So if this is not the correct spot to bring this up, is the Park Board the correct spot to bring up DEI?
So just to clarify, my remarks were directed to Councilman Spencer and his political rant. It was not a comment pro or against the discussion of DEI. So if you want to go back and look at the transcripts, you want to review the tape, that's what my comment was for, is comments relating to the political was inappropriate in this chamber. And I stand by those comments.
Okay, but that wasn't my question. My question was, if this isn't the correct place to bring up a discussion about DEI, how is the Parks Commission that you were president of when DEI was implemented the correct place to implement that?
I didn't raise a question to the DEI aspect of it. That will be for this body individually and collectively to comment on. My comment specifically directed to include the political landscape into this body. That's what my issue was, and that's the way I stated it. I did not have a comment in that instance relating to DEI.
You did not answer my question. My question is, you said that the city council was not a place to bring up a political argument such as DEI. You implemented DEI in the Parks Department under your tutelage as the president of the Parks Commission. My question to you is, if this isn't the correct situation to deal with ongoing situations of DEI, then how is it that you implemented DEI as a parks provision, hired an individual, which I'm going to get to in a minute because I'd be interested to know what that individual was paid out of taxpayer money. And now that position is gone with the new president, who happens to be an African American. But we'll get to that in a minute. How is it that this is not the place to deal with this, but the Parks Commission was? That's my question.
I didn't say that there wasn't a place for this body to talk about DEI. That wasn't my statement. My statement was only about the interjecture of political rant on what statements he made regarding to the president and who voted for who. And no, I thought that was inappropriate. And I stand by those comments.
Okay. Do you believe that DEI should be implemented in the city?
Well, first of all, if we're talking about the merits of the bill, the city doesn't have a policy on DEI that I know of. They have not instituted one. They've not created one.
You instituted one.
I'm sorry?
You instituted one.
The Parks Commission did. I singularly did not do that. As a Parks Commission, we did that. But you're pointing to me and saying I did it. I didn't do it.
You were the president of the Parks Commission, am I correct?
You are correct. And I'm one of many commissioners. I personally did not do that. You're placing the blame or attacking my position as president because I did it. I personally did not do it as president.
I'm not attacking your position. What I'm saying is you were the head of the commission that implemented DEI programs in the parks. Now, Councilman Spencer has introduced an ordinance to eliminate future DEI programs for the city. You implemented, to my knowledge, the only DEI program that this city has ever seen. My question is, was it the right decision, and do you stand by it?
I stand with my commission members, and we voted.
Did you vote for it?
As a president calling for vote, I did not interject a vote, but the commission voted for it.
Okay, so if it was okay on that commission to deal with this type of program, why is it not okay for our city council to deal with this kind of program?
Again, I go back to my statement. My statement was not questioning whether or not this body should interact into this conversation or discussion or debate. I wouldn't try to limit that. My comment was a council member continually, multiple meetings now, has interjected politics into this chamber, and I feel it's inappropriate, period.
Well, let me ask you this. What makes a swimming pool diverse, equitable, or inclusionary?
I'm not sure I understand your question. What's a swimming pool?
Well, parks are in charge of swimming pools, so how are we going to make a swimming pool more diverse, equitable, or inclusionary in our town? What's the point? What was the point of hiring somebody in a DEI program for the parks? What was the point? I don't understand the point. Parks are inclusionary for everybody. They're a slide doesn't have any sort of prejudice. Any person of color, gender, race, sexual orientation can go down a slide. What was the point of implementing that under your tutelage on the Parks Commission?
I believe that one of the discussion topics relative to that when it came to the commission was an attempt to ensure and to invest in our relationship from a park standpoint, and to make sure that we invested in the relationship with Lincoln University, and make sure that we maintain a viable, equitable relationship with our hometown university, to make sure that we, as a department staff, if there was need to understand or to bridge that gap, that we had someone on staff to be able to do that.
So as the president of the Parks Commission, have you been made aware that in this instance, you're speaking of Lincoln University, is your insinuation that you had information that our parks weren't diverse, equitable, or inclusionary for African Americans?
I don't recall that specific question. I can tell you what I do recall is what I said about ensuring and having someone on staff that was able to make sure that we had a bridged relationship with the university, with Lincoln University. That's what I remember. Now, there could have been more to it than that. To be honest, that's been a while ago, so I don't remember all the things relative to that, but I know that was one of the conversations.
Have you ever worked for the Parks Department?
No.
I have. My first job ever was at Ellis Porter Riverside Pool. And I will tell you, the pool was highly diverse, very equitable, and very inclusionary. As a matter of fact, I know a young lady that owns a company that has an event there every year that includes multiple people that are developmentally disabled that go there. So with that being said, there's a list of.
So it's inquiry. He asked to do an inquiry. The councilman said he would accept the inquiry, so it's an inquiry. Okay.
So there are a list of things that are covered by our equal employment opportunity laws in this country. One of them is not DEI, by the way. And that list is exhaustive, and I'm not going to extend this meeting to run through every one of them, but needless to say, in no way, shape, or form does DEI, which is not a law, it's a policy, protect anybody from anything. The Equal Opportunity Employment Commission is responsible for that. And the fact that we have a Parks Commission that implemented DEI and it since went away, which is not surprising because it was an abject failure. But much like the director that implemented it was an abject failure. But as we move forward, the point of the councilman's bill that was attempted to be laid on the table incorrectly was to get rid of this. If it's been implemented before, it can be implemented again. I think the councilman has introduced a great bill. I am full support of President Trump, and I don't care what people say about politics on this thing. If you implemented it, you had a political agenda. It's called woke. You had a woke political agenda on the Parks Commission. You decided to implement it. It was a failure, and you can't answer for it. You can't even answer my question of what was the point of it?
I answered directly the question, and I stand by what I said. The thrust of it was to establish and maintain, continue, develop, and improve relationships with Lincoln University to maximize the two bodies, the partnerships that are already there, that we want to make sure that we have direct knowledge with information that helps us present, not just to Lincoln, but to our community as well. You know, certainly an opportunity to discuss whether people have an opinion and strong opinions, apparently one way or the other, relative to DEI. But really, the city, and you can say parks, but the city does not have a DEI program. They don't.
Anymore.
There's, to my knowledge, no plan to institute that or any other acronym related to it. So why do we have to address something in this body today that in 6 months, a year, 10 years from now, any council could change it again, or change it back, or adjust it, or amend it?
Because 5 years ago, if we'd have done this, you wouldn't have been able to implement it in the first place.
I mean, I think your microcosm on I don't know that I could classify it as a program. We considered a position that we identified the need to make sure that we were good business partners with our hosting university, for which we had a piece of property or a structure on that they were kind enough to donate to parks, and to be a partner, an ongoing partner, for a facility that's used by every race, color, and creed. We wanted to make sure that we maintain a good relationship with the university.
What was strange?
I don't know necessarily, and I'd have to go back and do a little research. I don't know that it was directly related to your word as a program. We hired a person to make sure that we looked out for the needs of Lincoln University and that they identified anything that we could do better to make sure that that relationship stayed or continued to build and grow. I don't see any problem with that. Some do. Fine, you're entitled to your opinion. My record.
I don't have an opinion. You did it, not me.
In this community will stand for itself, sir.
That's fine.
My record will stand for itself and who I represent and why.
What information did you get from Lincoln University that the relationship was strained between Lincoln University and the parks?
Didn't necessarily say it was strained. We wanted to continue to.
No, you did. You said it was strained.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, so it wasn't diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was for Lincoln University. That's your testimony. Because when you look at the article, the individual you hired said, when you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion and how massive that could be, it's overwhelming. And you kind of get discouraged. So if it was all about Lincoln University, I love Lincoln University. I got a master's degree from there. But the individual you hired said, when you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But all I've heard you say, Councilman Leichel, is wasn't me. I was president. I was one vote. It wasn't me. So I mean, we can go on this all night long if you want, and I'm fully prepared for it.
Really?
But when you call out another councilman for doing something as political, I know you just got on here, but I've seen some political stuff on this council. Very political. Matter of fact, it's funny because you had a couple bills in your committee not too long ago that you opted to vote, not to vote out, including the ATV bill that has been through staff, the police department, but you chose not to do that. And I'm hesitant to say this, but it seems like that was a very political decision by you because it's Councilman Spencer's bill. Now, if you didn't think that bill was prepared to be up, that's fine. I can go with that. But I don't think that's what it was. You just didn't want to do it.
If you would look again at the transcription, I served as the president of that committee. I didn't cast a vote. The members did, and it was unanimous.
You're the president.
It was 3-1. Okay? I didn't personally vote. I'm the one taking the votes. So, and I don't know what your point is and what that has to do with the DEI part, and we may get to this other conversation.
What did our taxpayers pay for that position?
That I couldn't tell you. I don't have that with me.
You were the president of the Parks Commission. You have no idea what you were paying that individual?
This seems to be getting off of this bill.
I'm going to say probably, if you want me to guess, and it's merely a guess because I don't get into the entire staff's salary.
If there's a point of order called, I'll speak against the point of order. This is just specifically about DEI.
What? So I'm going to say it was in the neighborhood of 65,000. I don't.
65,000 with a 60% fringe, which is another third. So $100,000 the taxpayers of this city was paying an individual in the Parks Department for DEI. $100,000 a year. And for what? What did we get out of it? And I don't expect you to answer it because there is no answer. We got nothing.
absolutely nothing, to the point that the current director and president said, get rid of it. I yield, Mr. Mayor.
All right, you have before you the proposal to bring this item back. Are there any other comments? All right, what you're voting on is to bring 2024-080 back onto the agenda. We'll do a roll call vote.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Young,
No.
Hollers,
Aye.
Hazelton,
No.
Joe,
No.
Lester,
No.
Michael,
No.
Neely,
No.
6 noes, 4 ayes.
All right, the motion fails. Move forward to 2024-081.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri restricting compression relief braking systems and modified exhaust systems.
Chief,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This bill would amend Article 6, Miscellaneous Traffic Regulations of Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Municipal Code to restrict the use of compression release braking system and modified exhaust systems within the city limits of Jefferson City in an effort to deal with the noise associated with those items. This bill was introduced at the January Public Safety Committee meeting at the request of the bill's sponsor. It was discussed, debated. There was a motion to move that on to the full council with no second, and there was no direction from the committee to staff to further develop this ordinance. So it currently sits on the old business agenda of the Public Safety Committee. As such, as written, staff recommendation is it does not pass and refer back to committee and have the committee direct staff to further develop that ordinance.
Are you done?
Yes. Captain Ramsey.
Thank you. Yeah, this bill came through our committee and our Public Safety Committee. And it came through in a pretty unique way. I basically got the information while I was sitting there. You know, I've spoke to some folks, and I have constituents who are in support of this bill, and I'm not necessarily not in support of the bill, but I think that there are processes in place for good reason. One of the things that I think would be advantageous for this bill is that we, rather than just pushing an ordinance through and saying, now we have an ordinance on the books, is to actually think about how we can better Jefferson City, right? Because I don't know that the ordinance does that. So when you travel to most communities and they have this type of ordinance on the book, they have the signs along their highway that say no engine brake. And so one of the things that our Traffic and Transportation Commission looks at a lot of times before things get to committee is they look at that, they review with staff, with our engineers, and they look at what the impact could be for that signage, how much the signage would cost, and they bring those estimates back to that commission. That commission, by code, is supposed to review all things related to traffic. So it would be my motion right now. I'm making a motion to send this to the Traffic and Transportation Commission for review of the fiscal impact that this could have with the installment of signs, so that individuals in this community know that we do have an ordinance. I don't know how, if I'm a semi driver, I don't know how I'm supposed to know not to use my engine brakes if I don't see a sign that says no engine brakes. I mean, that's pretty regular in most communities. So I would like to make a motion to send this back to that committee or commission rather, for further review.
And I'll second that.
You can still ask.
Got a motion and a second to refer this back to where?
The Traffic and Transportation.
Do we even know that that's the appropriate place for it to go?
I believe it is. I mean, I would take advice, but I think one of my concerns with the bill too is there's no fiscal impact. Well, if you're gonna start installing signs telling people not to use their engine brakes, it seems to me that that would take a lot of staff time and be a fiscal impact. And I wanna know what that is before we vote on it.
Well, and
Mr. Mayor?
Just to clarify one point, our staff is not thrown under the bus. The materials were available on Tuesday prior to that meeting. They were posted, so.
The thing is nobody told us, and I was studying at home with a cold, and I made a comment and understood that the materials are posted, but you have to be told that materials are posted to know.
Right.
So,
I've never heard that in 8 years.
I looked at, it wasn't on the agenda, I don't think, and it wasn't posted online as far as I know. I looked for it.
Councilman Schwartz?
Yeah, I'm actually not in severe opposition to what Councilman Mealy wants to do, but the better question is, if it goes back there, are we gonna get a vote on it? And get it out? If the Captain Wilde and his team can come up with something that's agreeable and something we can bring up, are we gonna get a vote on it, or is it just gonna sit in committee? That's all I gotta say.
I mean, if you're asking me that, Councilman Schwartz, I would expect the committee to review it at their next meeting and it to follow that process in which.
No, I wasn't inquiring. I was actually kind of agreeing with you. I just want to ensure that if we come up with something that is feasible, one way or the other, that there's an up and down vote on it in committee. But if we're going to send it to committee, my hope is that it would actually get out of committee.
One point of clarification, Mayor, was that the
Councilman Leichel?
Was that the Transportation Committee we're referring to, or the Public
Traffic
Safety?
and Transportation Committee.
Okay. I didn't.
That's the too.
Councilman Allers.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know. I know we're supposed to speak on the motion, but I had a thing I was going to say before he made his motion. So what is the appropriate time for me to make a comment on this subject?
We act on this.
The motion. Okay.
All right, you have a motion and a second before you to refer this to traffic and transportation. Councilman Spencer.
Just to clarify, are we getting a staff recommendation of if this is the proper committee? Because I've not heard that.
It's pretty broad in general.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the duties of the Transportation and Traffic Commission. It says, Commission shall consider and recommend the establishment of motor vehicle traffic or parking regulations, which in the opinion promotes traffic safety and decreases traffic congestion. This is pretty squarely a motor vehicle regulation. So I say this is an appropriate landing spot.
Appropriate? You said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Traffic and Transportation, right?
All right, I'm only gonna make one other comment related to this. This is why we do the pre-meeting, to give us an indication that these kind of things are coming up. More than free as a council to do that. We're gonna have to rethink what that pre-meeting is for if we're gonna do this kind of stuff moving forward. You've got the motion on the table to send 2024-081 to Traffic and Transportation for a roll call vote.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Positon.
Aye.
Job.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Leichel.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz.
All right.
Bill is referred.
2024-082.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri regulating the operation of golf carts and other utility vehicles on city streets.
Chief Wilde, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This bill would again amend Article 6 of miscellaneous traffic regulations of Chapter 19, motor vehicles and traffic, The city code to regulate the operation of golf carts and utility vehicles on city streets, roads, and alleyways within the city's limits. This bill was introduced at the December Public Safety Committee. During that meeting, the Public Safety Committee directed staff to further develop the ordinance. That was my marching orders to go to work on the ordinance. It was again presented in its current form at the January Public Safety Committee meeting. There was discussion and review, and it did not receive a vote to move forward. Currently sits on the old business agenda of the Public Safety Committee. There is one item I would like to bring up. It's that as I continued to review and continued to work on the ordinance, I did cross-reference with state statute 304032. In the original ordinance language, it talked about a $25 annual fee to be collected for the issuance of the permit. It would be issued by the police department. However, in looking at that state statute, we were limited to collect $15 rather than $25. So if passed through tonight, I would recommend that there be a amendment to that to change that cost to $15 versus $25.
Well, it's under bills introduced. I mean, I think we talked about in the pre-meeting, maybe bringing substitute language back at the next meeting with that change. Is that different than what we talked about a while ago?
My understanding.
So we can take into account what you're recommending with that action tonight, unless the council is wanting to act on this tonight. Councilman Spencer.
I just have a question. Based on your inspection process, are the owners of the golf carts, ATVs, units, are they going to be required to bring them down to the PD station to get that licensure, or are you going to go on site to the property owners?
We have not developed that process yet. We would need some time to implement the administrative portion of this ordinance.
Is that something, I mean, are you leaning one way or the other? Are you going to wait till after the passage to determine that, or?
Yeah, we would wait till after the passage to determine.
Okay, thank you.
It would have to be flexible. Not everybody has a trailer,
right,
to bring it down. So I would imagine we would have to do some on-site visits.
Councilman Lester, do you have a comment?
Yes. So this item was also something that was not on the published agenda for that safety meeting. I think it should have been. I don't think there was anything in the packet either. I've been at the one at the end of December. Was actually looking for it. And I know some other people had some questions about it, were interested. I think you said it didn't have any vote out of safety?
It did not.
Did not. Has this been a problem? I mean, with these type of vehicles?
I don't know.
I mean,
are we trying to regulate an issue that we're having a problem with? No, it didn't.
Yes.
It didn't. The way I sort of see my role, if I see an issue that's causing safety concerns, I would draft the language, I would bring it to the Public Safety Committee, and I would say, hey, we've got a safety issue, let's discuss this. I would appreciate you taking it up. This is not something that I've seen that has become an issue. I think it's more constituent driven so that we can allow it in our community for people to be able to apply.
anyway, I would think maybe it should be referred back to safety to get some more discussion and something out of safety recommendation. I'm not understanding really the reason for this action.
Councilman Amelia, then Councilman Spencer.
Thank you. Chief, do you know who the constituents are that forwarded this to you?
specifically, no. The bill was introduced or pushed, presented by the bill sponsor, Councilman Spencer.
Okay, do you know who the constituents are?
Yeah.
Who are
I'm not obligated to tell you who those people are. If they want to share that with me, I'll.
I know you're not obligated, but I just thought maybe we would find out who wants golf carts in Jeff City.
I do have a constituent, and it's, I didn't bring it up, but I think he wants to be in conformance to the law. Is it correct that they are not allowed on the street currently?
With the exception of government-owned,
What about agricultural?
agriculture, that sort of thing. Lies for business purposes, that sort of stuff. But as far as recreational, they're not allowed. State statute allows bodies such as this to enact ordinances that allow them to be used for recreational.
So this bill is recreational?
Yes.
Okay. So did you have multiple constituents, or was it just one constituent that asked you?
It was a couple.
A couple, like two?
Yeah.
Two constituents of the third ward?
No, well, yeah, they were.
Okay. And so then you brought this to our committee without it being an agenda item?
No, actually, it was done before the new city administrator protocols because of your lawsuit against this whole body.
No, I'm saying you brought this forward to our committee.
I'm responding to that. I'm responding to that. You guys actually asked the city staff to draft the ordinance.
But I'm saying on the last committee meeting, you brought this in new business knowing that you would have it as an item for that meeting without putting it on the agenda, without requesting it being added to the agenda.
No, it was a.
I think to clarify, it was on the agenda and there may have been some oversight that did it.
Within new business and old business. Okay. Okay. I don't have a problem with anybody coming forth with any bill, so long as it follows the process of outlined to the city.
Well, I find that really disingenuous when you're the one that's tried to do that multiple times through planning and public works.
I didn't try to do that multiple times. There was once where I didn't.
All right, we're going to keep the discussion to the
I'm just going to respond to that if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. I had constituents ask me for something, just like you, right? And I asked staff about it, and staff informed me of the right procedure. And then staff asked me how I wanted to proceed. Mr. Crane asked me how I wanted to proceed. And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the rules correctly. You know, the rules kind of, we've got a changing goalpost sometimes, but I said, well, I'm sorry, let me follow the rules and let me follow exactly how you all would like this to be done. And I did. And then I got asked if I wanted it on your public works and planning agenda. And guess what I said in an email? I can show you right now. I said no. And guess where it showed up? As a political stunt on your agenda. There's no place, back to Councilman Lykel's point, we are getting such, I thought I would come to this job and work on roads and get stuff done. And dealing with you is all I'm getting done. I'm done.
Well, first off.
Whoa. Mr. Crane.
So the packet for the Public Safety Committee is still on our Good Reader portal. It was put on that meeting on Tuesday. The items you're talking about, the police department put some of the documents in other documents and put some of them under a link. You can go see that now. Nothing's changed. So they were submitted to the public, to the committee, to everybody on Tuesday.
Put on the website.
They were put in Good Reader.
I didn't know that we received an email saying they were in Good Reader, and if that's been the process indefinitely, as Water said, I just did not realize that.
And what I would say is we have
committee members as well that didn't realize that, so
and
communication would really help. us find those types of things.
And what I would say.
Not in a discussion. The city administrator has the floor.
What I would say is we have, for all of these committees, we have multiple departments with multiple employees that might all do something a little bit different. I told them to try to do it the same for every committee so everybody's used to the same process and procedure. So I am not totally sure for the Public Safety Committee and that employee how that information goes out and who she sends it out to. But I've told them to look into that and make sure they follow the same process. That is not a political stunt. It's humans sometimes doing things a little bit different. But to characterize what staff's trying to do, which is provide information and be responsive, as political stunts, I don't agree with. And as far as the Public Works Committee meetings, yes, there was a delay in communication. The agenda got posted. We have said from the beginning, you can do it multiple ways. A council member can submit things to those committees for review. There's nothing inappropriate about that. That's allowed. The staff also submits things, and citizens have a different avenue. Sometimes submit stuff through other avenues. So there's multiple layers, there's multiple ways to do things. Sometimes it operates a little bit different because of where it comes from. On the UTV process, Councilman Spencer decided to handle that. It went to the Public Safety Committee in December because we said, okay, Councilman Spencer, if you want this done, staff's not working on it until staff gets direction from the committee. And in December, they said, the committee said, with Councilman Spencer's request, yes, staff work on it. Chief Wilde worked on it, brought it back in January. It was on the agenda, but I would say it was under a link under other business. I just said it's on a link. So if you click on other business.
There's no link.
Councilman Allers.
The city administrator answered my question about the good reader part, Mr. Mayor, so.
So he just, let me just, if I could continue, because Councilman Lester was just shown how to find it, and like I said, that's a problem. We have humans that are doing things a little bit differently, and technology's different, and people's understanding of technology's different. All of those documents were also on a tab called Other Documents. That is the problem with technology and people's understandings on how to use it and how to integrate with it with our processes. So yes, staff works on that, tries to make it better all the time. It's not an attempt to sabotage anybody, to pull any stunts. It's just people trying to do the best they can. And I hope this council will realize there's a lot of employees here, a lot of people that are trying to do their best. And that's what they try to do every day.
All right, our discussion is on 2024-082. Is there any discussion on that bill that has been introduced?
Mr. Mayor, one comment on that, sir.
Is it on 082?
Yeah, it's actually on that. So just so everybody knows, because not everybody was part of the Public Safety Committee meeting, and since I chaired that, we had what I thought was a good discussion, recognizing that the staff and the chief worked. I had no issues with discussing it, and I understood where the documents were. That wasn't anything committee related. That was just Councilman Mealy just wasn't sure because he was sick, so he didn't know that or wasn't aware of it. So I don't know that there were any statements made to be critical of staff. In what was presented to council or committee. My deal was as chair was to have a good conversation with committee members and to ask the staff chief to provide any of those answers to those feedback for those questions. He did. The committee considered those. and wasn't quite comfortable with presenting it to the full council yet, because it was, again, put on old business, tabled, put on old business, with the intent to bring it up next month and further discussion, maybe get feedback from our citizens. Folks, I don't see anything wrong with that, okay? I think that's the way it's supposed to work. But we're here to vote on these, and I wanted everybody in here to hear why the committee did what they did. It's the democratic process. It is. You may not always agree with it, and it may not fit your narrative. At least from my perspective as a committee chair of public safety, I want to make sure I give the tools necessary to public safety that helps them. I didn't know we had problems with these. That was some of the questions, these issues. You know, what's the impact on public safety? Does it hurt or help? Does it hinder in any way? Obviously, the cost perspective. All of those were discussed. So, just so everybody knows.
Well, just again to clarify, I was at that meeting. There was a discussion of tabling which was not made in the form of a motion. Mr. Crane said, you guys have got to give us some direction. There was no vote on this action. It just died. It was just there. There was no action to do anything. It wasn't tabled. I guess you could bring it up under new business. And the councilman said, I would like some action on this. Used the process to bring it to the council. But Mr. Crane asked twice to just give staff some direction. What do you want us to do on this?
I mean, I can't speak for all the committee members, but I don't know that there's any additional things that they needed from them, other than I know one of the points was, were we making an ordinance? And not necessarily all of these, or these, and I make this statement, but I think it's applicable. How many people want to drive ATVs, UTVs on our streets? Does that help or hinder our police force to ensure that they're used properly, safely in our neighborhoods? I think you could debate that. It's debatable whether or not it helps us or hurts us. Golf carts, same deal. Like I said, I don't know necessarily that the committee, and I can't again speak for everyone, I don't know that necessarily that the committee had any additional, I mean, we didn't have any data necessarily to speak of, other than there was one or two people that wanted to see this done. Or relating to the brakes, there was a gentleman that spoke last meeting that had 20 or 25 signatures. So,
again, that's what Mr. Crane was asking for. Tell us what you want from staff, and the issue we were on to the next issue. It didn't die, it didn't live, it didn't have any direction, it just vaporized. And Councilman was saying, I would like to see some discussion on this. If you want to take it back, I mean, I don't know what the process is at this point, but Mr. Crane tried to get information in his, I believe, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, I believe his last comment was, you're not going to give us direction, staff's not doing anything on it until we hear from somebody.
That's understandable.
So, I mean, your comment to find this data, that's fine.
No, that was just me saying that.
No, I'm saying that there's nothing wrong with that, but someone's got to ask him to, we need this data. No one asked, it just vaporized, it just disappeared. We just quit talking about it, and we moved to the next item. That's all I'm saying is, and Councilman said, where'd it go? And I said, I don't know. We were talking, or you guys were talking, I don't talk at committee meetings. So he said, I'm gonna bring it back with his prerogative to bring it back to, or bring it to council. And that's where we are right now. You can do whatever you want with it at this point. It's on the table in front of you to act on, not act on. If you do nothing, it's gonna come back on your next agenda.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Schwartz, Councilman Allers afterwards.
I mean, to say that only a couple of people want this is not accurate. I've had multiple people, especially in these more townhouse, maybe a little older age, communities that like to have a golf cart, to go to each other's house. They want to respect the rule of law, and I respect that. And so I think this is a good thing. And for everybody that's worried about the environment, what better way to, save the environment than have an electric golf cart versus a, half-ton pickup. But I think everybody on the council knows what the situation was in that committee. We can dance around it and we can talk to each other about, well, I didn't know, I don't know if we were comfortable with it or we had other questions. We know what's going on. So I think, let's just continue to talk about this, and hopefully at the next meeting we can give the constituents, our constituents and the citizens of this city a different option when it comes to going to see a neighbor or whatever. And let's just move forward. Thanks.
I just like to know what he insinuates by that. I didn't go in there with any agenda as a committee chair. What are you insinuating by that, Councilman Swartz?
Well, we're not going to get in inquiry. Councilman Allers had his hand up.
I was just going to see if for this, if it's appropriate to call for the question on a bill introduced. If not, I will.
This is on, the bill's introduced. You have to ask to suspend the rules and vote tonight. Councilman Miller.
Thank you. The comment earlier to Councilman Leichel about.
Are you speaking to 2024-082, because that's what's on the table?
Yes. The comment to Councilman Leichel earlier about not giving any direction kind of struck me wrong. In that meeting,
Struck you wrong or is inaccurate?
Struck me wrong. I mean, as the vice chair, I sat there and I said, what I would like to see what normal process happens, as we saw tonight with Savannah Place and other things, is the public promoting these things or the public wanting these things, our citizens wanting these things. That's why I'm here, is to listen to what citizens want. But this process has been absent of that. And I don't feel like staff left that meeting with no direction, because my direction was I would like citizens to come and tell us that they want this. That's what normally happens, right?
You made a comment. I'm going to ask the city administrator to comment to your comment.
That's what you wanted. The proper thing to do is say, I make a motion that we have staff work on getting public input.
Which he asked for twice.
I said, make a motion. If you all want something, this is how this works. Let me just explain real quick. We're in those committees. Staff doesn't take direction from one council member, okay? We take direction from the council or the committee. So it's important that when you all want us to do something, that we get direction from the council. Because what if the four that were in that meeting with you didn't want us to do that?
So I guess if staff is wondering if they want, or if I want them to get direction, or to talk to constituents, could you return that to me and said, are you making a motion, or is that what you want?
That's the chair's job. I asked the chair multiple times.
I mean, I think
you all want something, tell us what to do.
Yeah.
Then you make a motion. Then you should have said, is that a motion, I guess? But that is not my job. My job is to say, is there direction? I don't understand why there's an eye roll and like I'm doing something wrong here. That is how it works. Mr. Molman, am I wrong on the fact that we're there to get direction from the committee not from individuals from the committee to direct staff.
I think that's an accurate statement.
This is not foreign. This is not foreign.
I'm just
This is
saying,
normal.
the committee, I asked twice.
And nobody said I second that.
Citizen feedback.
Nobody said I second that.
So that's just on me. That's just what I did.
Okay, well, it's not us not doing our
What I'm
job.
supposed to be doing.
I want everybody to understand it's not us not doing our job. It's your responsibility as council members to get your council members to go with you one way or the other, and then we follow. But I need that direction. Staff needs that direction.
All right, you've got 2024-082. Be looking forward to seeing that on the next meeting agenda. Bills pending. We've done all three of those. Item 13, informal calendar 2024-067.
Move it on
Council,
the informal calendar, Mr. Mayor.
will stay on the calendar. Item 14, resolutions. Resolution 2024-41.
A resolution authorizing the city clerk and mayor to enter into a real estate sale and purchase agreement with Prairie Farms Dairy Incorporated.
Would ask the city administrator, there was a comment that this did not go out on an RFP. It did go out on an RFP, correct?
It was in the first round of RFPs.
Comments on the resolution, Councilman Spicer.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second to adopt. You now have 2024-41 on the table for action. Did you want to make comment, Mr. Smith?
No.
Oh, okay.
Did you second that?
Councilman Neely?
Yeah. I have several comments and questions for staff related to this resolution. So this property is a farm property that originally went through an RFP.
Did you identify staff you're asking that to?
I'm making a general comment first, and then I'll direct it to staff who I'm asking the question, if I may. This was a property that went through the RFP process after the city obtained Barbara Busher's property. And I think as the city as a whole, the city body, the citizens know, we went through a RFP process to decide how these properties would be distributed and who they would be provided to based on the merits of those bids. My problem with this process is not who we're awarding this property to tonight. It's how it was done in closed session. I mean, I don't feel comfortable in this city, again, saying that we're going into a closed session to do an RFP process, and here we are in a direct sale to somebody. You know, a motion is made to direct sale to somebody in a closed session that is closed pursuant to 610-0212. And it's, you know, it's just another one of those situations where I'm in closed session and I'm not feeling comfortable.
Okay, all right. We went under closed session 610-0210 for the disposition and sale lease of real estate. The vote that was taken was regarding the sale, purchase, lease, or rent of real estate. 100%, 100% within lines of this of the Sunshine Law. Undoubtedly.
If I may, 610-0212 is the lease, purchase, sale of real estate by a public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration of thereof. So when staff doesn't know that we're moving from a RFP process to a direct sale process, and a council member makes that motion in that closed session, what is the legal consideration thereof?
I don't understand the question.
610-0212 relates to a competitive bidding process, correct?
No.
So
Any consideration of real estate where public knowledge before the real estate deal is done could impact what the sale price is or the consideration of that is subject to closure.
there was no sale price at that point is the point I'm making.
there doesn't need to be a sale price. That can be part of the negotiation and the discussion in closed session. That is what the sunshine law and that exception is designed for, so that the city council can have candid discussions about what it would accept and who to sell to and what the appropriate consideration for any property is. And that is what it's designed for, is so they can have those conversations and not get it out into the public that says, we might accept this, we might sell this for $10,000, but you have people out there that might be willing to pay $20,000 for it. It's so you can have these conversations and not give away what the city would be willing to sell it for.
That's in a competitive bidding process.
No, not in a competitive bidding process. A competitive bidding process is not required for sale of real estate. The only thing that's required for sale of real estate is that due consideration is given for the property. What that really means is that you can't give it away. You either have to get money or promises.
So I guess my question is where is the public knowledge of the transaction that might adversely affect the legal consideration thereof?
I think that is inherent in any real estate transaction, that you need to be able to discuss how much you would accept for any particular piece of property.
Okay.
And decide that before that information becomes public.
So maybe my concerns aren't so much legal, but they're just moral concerns. Like, you know, we're sitting here as a city government and we're saying we're going through an RFP process with these properties. And we have somebody interested in hooking somebody up and they make a motion and it passes. I mean, in closed session, and then the public has just a couple of days to react to it. That just doesn't feel right to me. This stuff just does not feel right to me, and I guess I'll stop there because.
Is your comment based on legal opinion or just what you think?
It's based on legal opinion of the closed session.
We just heard from the attorney it's not based on legal opinion. So it's fair for someone to come in here and say, now I know what you're going to sell it for, I'll give you a little bit more?
I am saying that.
No, that was a direct question.
I am saying that the process moving from an RFP to a direct sale in a closed session was inappropriate.
Is this process any different than what we've done on any other real estate transaction?
This is in line with processes that we have. These Busher properties are very, very unique. So I can't point to any situation that's similar, but all in line within processes that we have.
Okay. And I'll just stop here. You know, we're trying to save a historic home in my ward, in Old Uniport, that, you know, that provides a buffer between commercial that has interest, as came tonight. And I just, you know, I bring that campaign revenue through tourism, where the more you keep a historic city, the more interest you have in bringing people to that city, showing that city off. And as these buildings deplete over there, and that industrial park shows, it just, and the housing aspect, you know, of making this available to somebody to, I work with 2 engineers who just located in Columbia.
Does that pertain to this property?
So
I'm going to ask you to.
I'm just hoping that my colleagues might consider to vote this resolution down, put it back out to bid. If the current, you know, receiver Prairie Farms wants to bid, then they can, you know. But the way this went, the way this happened is very uncomfortable to me.
Are you saying it's illegal? Yes or no? Are you saying it's illegal?
Hang on. I don't know. It feels like it.
It feels like it.
Yes.
Councilman Spencer.
Yeah, I just take complete objection to your comments tonight. I cannot help you if you do not understand the rules and the responsibilities of a closed session meeting. Numerous times you have voted on closed session items and then come out and then, I don't know who you're talking to. You said you had just conversation with some legal experts on this closed session description.
Why are you looking at my stuff?
And And it's very alarming that you're having discussions with.
I'm not having any discussions. I'm reading the sunshine law and making my own observation.
It's not a discussion. Councilman Spencer has the floor.
It seems to me that you are jeopardizing this city yet again with crying wolf that we are doing something illegal. I cannot help it. If you do not understand what you're voting for at the time of these closed session votes, you come out and then you suddenly have a change of heart. I've seen emails to the effect of, I want to change my vote after the fact.
Never happened.
That is a lie.
That is a lie.
So
I'm going to ask the discussion to be on.
Real quick.
Well, not quick, but the action items on the table, which is the resolution. We've got a motion and a second. I will accept comments related to that resolution. That's it.
The resolution pertains to Prairie Farms, who have formerly Central Dairy, who have been nothing but great partners in this community that employs number of people in this community. And I've heard you say, well, if they just want to relocate instead of tearing down that building because you don't want to give them more parking space, that would be devastating for our community with you making that recommendation to relocate. So I urge my colleagues to put aside my colleagues' ignorance on the closed session process and vote. Thank you.
Ask we call the question.
A motion to call the question. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All right, you have resolution 2024-0-41 in front of you for a roll call vote.
Spicer.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Hazelton.
Aye.
Job.
No.
Lester.
No.
Michael.
Aye.
Mealy.
No.
Schwartz.
Yep.
Spencer.
Absolutely.
7 ayes, resolution is adopted.
There's no business brought up, no unfinished business. Last motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that this meeting be adjourned.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?